The Rough Drafts podcast is sponsored by Unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site. Bet on your favorite games like CSGO, Dota 2, and League of Legends, and earn Unicoins through successful bets, or use Unicorn's exclusive Connect program, where you can earn Unicoins just by playing some of your favorite games. Use your earnings to enter Unicorn's raffles for exciting prizes like Logitech peripherals or CSGO skins. So join Chase and Walter and prove who really is the esports gambling expert. Unicorn.com. Log on today.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to a very special edition of the Rough Drafts podcast. It is MSI main event time. We're here. No more play-ins. No more, which of these wild card regions that we're not sure how many we should care about are actually going to be going in. This is where people like Walter, Ceades, Fedczuk, my co-host here, and the more hardcore people can just go on in and know that they've got some excellent League of Legends coming their way. Right, Walter? That's where we are.
No.
Oh. Well.
Whatever. It's more games I have to watch.
I mean, I have to say, I feel like as a TSM fan, you have a lot of reasons to downplay this tournament. I'm not saying that's why you're doing it, because you were downplaying it before things went horribly wrong.
Let's get that out of the way. I'm not downplaying MSI because we almost lost to Gigabyte Adonis Marines. That's not why I'm downplaying it. I haven't cared about this tournament for like 2 years. So let's get TSM fanboy Walter is on vacation. He is taking a properly deserved vacation. He will be back for our team-by-team previews, which I believe start May 21st, which happens to coincide with the finals of MSI. So look forward to that. Shameless plug, but TSM fanboy Walter will be back for those. Don't you worry. But yeah, he's on vacation.
Yeah, you know what? It's the double lift strategy. I understand it. I appreciate it.
I cannot confirm that TSM fanboy Walter was out drinking all night with his girlfriend instead of preparing for possibly the biggest game in his team's career. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
cannot confirm that.
Yeah, it seems like a TSM move. Well, we're going to focus on the 6 teams that are actually going to be here with the rosters that we have and what we can get excited for at least a bit. I'm going to play the role of the guy who believes that MSI is relevant and fun and exciting, and Walter will play, I guess, the cynic, the let's keep everything in perspective guy. So hopefully we'll have some fun talking about all 6 of these teams. And we start with Marines Esports, a.k.a. Gigabyte Adonis Marines, the Southeast Asian team. They have emerged victorious. Took them a little while. Did very well in the round robin, obviously. Almost got past TSM. Did get past Supermassive for that final spot. Walter, did we learn anything new about Gigabyte Marines since the last time that we talked about them on the show?
We did, in fact, learn that they are the best out of all the wildcard teams that were at this tournament. I would say that. They are the best out of 11 some odd wildcard teams that showed up to this tournament. And they have some early game chops. Unfortunately for them, the early game does not matter bupkis in this meta of League of Legends. And they're either like 3-4 months too late, or they're like 2 months too early with how it looks like the mid-season patch is going. So nice try, guys. Glad you're here, though. There are some very weak early game teams, or some teams that just don't think the early game matters, that you can take advantage of. You can have some gold leads. You can make gamblers like me kind of giddy because we might put some money down on you. But ultimately, you have way too many flaws for me to consider you any sort of threat to contendership of actually winning this thing or playing in the playoffs. Now, I get it, all you Vietnam fans, all you Optimus fans, all you Levy fans, you're all going to be like, yeah, but we almost beat TSM. Walter, that's your team. Like, come on, give us some credit. And, like, yeah, like, you guys almost beat TSM. And I think TSM is the 5th best team at this tournament. So, like, I mean, maybe if you beat TSM 2 more times in the round robin and maybe take a game or 2 off of, you know, the 3rd or 4th team that I think at this tournament, you play, you know, plucky against an SK team. Yeah, maybe I'll be like, okay, like maybe these guys can hang with the big dogs. Maybe it is time to finally reunite the GPL into the wildcard region that we know it truly is. I think it might be time. Wouldn't you love to see Flash Wolves versus Adonis Marines in a final, and whoever wins that is the number 1 seed at Worlds? I know you want that. I know you want that.
Stop it.
I know you want it.
There's a reason that Taiwan and the rest of Southeast Asia do their own thing. And I think it's a positive. I do wish that the GPL was better structured, because right now we have a league that the Marines are unfortunately going to be stuck in, where they play in their one little Vietnam league, and then they play the best of all these other small countries, each of which had their own league. And we don't really get a full league as much as we get like these little mini tournaments that each get their way up the ladder. And I think there are some pros and cons to that. I definitely feel like what we're seeing with Marines right now is a team that has potential in the same way that most wildcard teams that have been good over the years have potential. They understand the early game. They know how to execute the laning phase. They have good, individually, mechanically strong players. Unfortunately, like, this is where they're going to be playing the best teams in the world, and macro play kind of matters. Yeah. And it seems like, the number of times that they honed in on a Baron that they didn't need to go in on, or the number of times that their vision was just non-existent when setting up for a fight that they needed, and the inability to create or force fights when behind that would work to their advantage. And for the record, the coaching issues that they have to deal with right now, because those pick and bans, especially against TSM in games 4 and 5, that got bad. Like, Kha'Zix was on the table, this champion that Levi had carried with 2 games in a row, games 1 and 2, and they're like, let's not take it again. Why? Why would you not take it again? Levy's your best player. He had a 6.8 KDA so far this tournament. Guy's a monster. I would absolutely import him in to one of my favorite North American teams if he could speak English. Guy's really good.
You're going a little too far there, brah. Little too far there.
I think mechanically the guy is there. And I think that if you look at the mechanically best junglers in like North America or Europe, I think he could hang with any of those guys.
Let me see him hang with Trick, not Svenskeren.
Well, and this is the problem, right? Is that we don't know where his, like the shot calling and the mental side of things that we rely upon with a jungler in the West and in League of Legends in general, we don't know that they have that. Now, could that be taught? Sure. But what we've kind of realized now, like this is season 7, right? We're 2017. If these guys are going to learn this macro play and apply it and refine it and bring it back to their region and make the whole region better, well, it certainly hasn't happened yet. And I think that the Marines are unfortunately, they're a team that's going to be very fun to watch. And I think that they have 3 different teams in World Elite, TSM, and G2 that they could genuinely beat just because they don't value the early game or they're not good at the early game. And if you snowball a big enough lead, I don't care what the meta is, you can win a game or 2. They could sneak a few. And if a wildcard team got to 5th in this tournament, it would be a huge accomplishment because no wildcard team's ever done it.
Shame on you, Chase, giving away our power rankings. I can't believe you would give away our power rankings so callously by not insinuating that World Elite is the best team at this tournament. This is embarrassing. This is a low level of professionalism. I didn't say anything about World Elite. No.
I just mean World Elite has a poor early game. They're one of the best team fighting teams in this tournament. They're really good at the mid to late game. But that doesn't mean their early game is somehow going to match up against the Gigabyte Marines. There's nothing I saw from their early game footage when I went back over China that says that they have the ability to roam around the map as effectively as Levy and Optimus have so far.
That's fair.
Now, the problem is that skill is a very limited one. So, I guess at the end of the day, Walter, do you think they can fight their way to 5th? Or is this just another team that we're going to forget about a couple months from now?
It depends. It depends how on vacation TSM and G2 are. TSM looks pretty laid back on their vacation. I mean, I'm just looking at Twitter right now, and Bjergsen's talking about how he thinks he's breaking out because he's eating too much dessert, and it's delicious, and it looks like he has some sort of brownie with a chocolate mousse, and I'm not even joking. This is literally on my Twitter feed right now, 9 minutes ago on Monday night. And we'll get to TSM in a moment when we talk about TSM, but like if both G2 and TSM are on vacation, maybe they win 2, maybe 3 games. I think it's more likely they win 1. I think they win 1 game against whoever's playing worse out of G2 or TSM. It's probably going to be TSM. But, you know, what does 5th place accomplish? It's just like a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
It's a victory. It's a victory, Walter. If you're from Vietnam,
it's not a victory though. There's no championship. You don't get a trophy for 5th place, which goes back to my previous argument from the last episode. IWC should have had their own tournament that the first place person then got into it, because then they could have gone home with a trophy and said, yes, we are absolutely, unequivocally, with medal, with a trophy, with something we can tangibly hold that says we are the best IWC team. And that is something that you truly can hang your hat on, because they make very lovely coat racks, trophies do. Getting 5th place in this MSI tournament does nothing. It means nothing. You were 5th place out of 6 teams. You got 5th. Congratulations.
I think that would mean a lot more to people than you're making it out to be, especially if you're in Vietnam and you don't have that many tournaments that you can point to in that regard. That's like saying, you know, if you look at the World Cup, like, you know, Nigeria getting out of the group stage doesn't matter. Well, if you're from Nigeria, yeah, it does, because Nigeria doesn't get out very often.
I'm not from Nigeria. You're asking my opinion, and I think a 5th place means nothing. I'm sure to someone from Vietnam or to a Vietnam esports connoisseur, it probably would mean the world. But to me, it's nothing. It means nothing. I'm sorry. If Marines go on to win this entire thing, I will change my entire tune. But I just don't see how 5th place accomplishes anything. They got their victory, which was now the C region has 2 spots at Worlds. They have 2 spots.
Which is a problem, by the way, because there is not a second team from that region that deserves to be at
There's probably not a second team from any IWC region that deserves to be here. Let's be honest. There's a reason they're the IWC regions and not one of the 4 power regions. NA kind of lives in... NA lives in purgatory. I'm going to be honest. Okay. NA is in purgatory. What is the... We do have some odds. So what is... Let me guess what the outright odd is.
Yeah, where do you think
for Marines to win? To win the entire thing, I'm going to put them at plus 50,000.
No, it's not quite that high.
Okay, plus 15,000. That was my real guess.
15,000 is correct.
Okay, that was my real guess, but I just remember at Worlds, like, astronomical odds for some of these teams. So
it is plus 15,000.
Okay, that feels about right.
That's totally fair. Because let me be clear, I'm defending the Marines because I like the idea of these wildcard regions mattering. I did coach in a wildcard region, after all. They're not going to win more than...
Did you really?
2.
Was that a wild card region? I had no idea.
Yeah, I know, right? I totally don't bring it up on the podcast all the time. Let's move on to the 5th team on our list and on Unicorn's outright list. TSM. We talk about TSM a lot on the pod, obviously, so I don't feel like we need to rehash all of our thoughts on TSM. Just quickly, Walter, did anything about this series against Marines change your opinion or make you worried or nervous? Like, what do you as a TSM fan take away from almost losing to a Vietnamese team?
What do we have to give up for Medios? Or Dardoch?
Ooh!
Svenskaren's a problem. Svenskaren's a big problem. He looked like shit. He looked awful.
Yeah.
He looked terrible. I don't know what happened this split. I really don't know what happened to him. Nothing really... The meta didn't change all that drastically from Worlds, from when he was running Rush Shot over or in the summer finals. I don't know what changed. He's just playing so poorly. His decision making is awful. He's making these gambles on invades that maybe he was making them last year and they're backing him up better, but I just don't see it. He seems lost. He seems listless. He feels like a guy who has gotten way, way, way too comfortable with his seat. That he's like, nothing's going to happen. I'm good. And as much as I go, Bjergsen picks his junglers, and as long as Bjergsen wants him there, he's there. Bjergsen picks his junglers, and as long as he wants you there, you're there. Shall we talk? He's Littlefinger. Bjergsen is Littlefinger. Shall we ask Santorin how his career is going? Should we ask the Odd One? Should we ask Amazing? How do they feel? Oh wait, you can't hear them. They're on a pike in King's frickin' Landing.
I was gonna say, Svenskeren reminds me of Amazing right now. In multiple ways. I think it's very similar to where I felt Amazing was before he was then kicked from TSM. I also think it reminds me a lot of where Amazing is now. Like just in terms of, they have these roaming patterns that seem very tired and worn out, and sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's synced up with the rest of the team. And I don't think you want to be compared to 2017 Amazing in any capacity. And the fact that I don't have a good counter argument as to why he wouldn't be in that conversation, like, I don't know, man. It's tough. And I think this particularly, you look at TSM, they need a strong jungler because everything runs through Bjergsen. And if you don't have a strong jungler, then they can just camp Bjergsen all day long.
Well, it's okay. He's getting double lift back. He's getting double lift. Haunters is in the peak of his career. Like, they're going to go back to the old TSM of old, which is going to be these. And maybe that's what it is now he had a weak lane. He had a lane that could be exploited, and he did spend a lot of time bot. He spent a lot of time with kind of these awkward ganks. We saw Bjergsen play a lot more passively. This feels a lot like, it felt a lot like Faker's like season 4. Where he was really trying to take some of the reins off of it because he didn't feel as comfortable with his teammates in top and bottom. He knew they were getting beat. They were falling off a bit. Piglet and Impact were not the same players in summer of Season 4 as they were in the spring or even during Season 3 when they won Worlds. They definitely came off a bit. And while Haunters was flourishing, Bjergsen realized that he was going to get focused, that Haunters was kind of flourishing because they weren't focusing, because everybody knew, like, Haunters is a tank player. You're not really going to kill him. He's very smart. He knows when to back off. He doesn't really overextend. But you got Wild Turtle in the bot lane, and boy, let me tell you what. Wild Turtle needing so much babysitting by Biofrost means that Biofrost isn't able to roam up into the mid lane and get wards on his side bushes and get wards in that little bush behind red buff and really protect Bjergsen. So he had to play safer. Because I think that first series against Cloud9, where Jensen just played Fizz in that first game, and those ganks from Svenskeren, that just showed a real good template for how to go after them. And because Haunters was excelling so much, Bjergsen didn't have to carry this huge load, didn't have to be this kind of huge super carry by himself. I think Double Lift coming back will help them. I think taking this kind of time off, this sort of like relaxed atmosphere, and any Parth can come out and say, oh, we're practicing so hard. Bjergsen can come out and say they're practicing so hard. Y'all aren't practicing hard for this event. Stop trying to kid us. You're having, chocolate mousse at like 11 o'clock at night in Brazil. You're talking about how fat you're getting, eating all this food. You're doing all this cute stuff with your social media stuff. It reminds me of Season 2 TSM. It reminds me of old TSM, where they're like, yeah, let's make the fans happy. Let's enjoy ourselves. We're in a new place. Like, I'm okay with that. MSI doesn't mean shit. It doesn't. It's okay. But, like, maybe call around and see if Dardoch is available.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Maybe Rainover. Just a thought.
I think it's fair. I think that's reasonable. I also think that if TSM really wanted to do well at MSI, they'd be starting Double Lift, who is now back on the roster officially. And we know he wants to play. And by the way, he was just playing for Team Liquid and was really good. So it's not like we have this thing of like, oh, well, maybe he's not ready yet. We know he's ready. We know he's ready to go right now. They're giving this tournament to Wild Turtle as a thank you for playing with us a split and helping us get to first place when we weren't going to play.
Enjoy your trip to Brazil.
Yeah, enjoy your trip to Brazil. And you know what? Shout out to Wild Turtle. He deserves it. I hope he gets a big contract going into either the summer split or next year. I hope that he, keep getting them checks, man. You did well enough. I don't think you're the weakest player on this team.
Nope.
So good for you. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I find it very hard to believe that TSM is going all out for this tournament. Where do you think the line is from Unicorn for them to win the tournament overall?
Plus 7,500.
Ooh, too high. Too high. Plus 2,500.
Okay.
There are only 6 teams in the tournament. So I think
the bottom team is at plus 15,000. Like, TSM isn't winning this tournament. Come on.
I don't think they are either, but at least
2,500 isn't. Like, that's respectable. That's respectable.
It's
because like, how does TSM win this tournament? They somehow dodge SKT. They're not the 4 seed. They're the 3 seed. SKT loses to whoever the 4 seed is.
Which they has to be Flash Wolves, because Flash Wolves are the only team at this tournament with
the World Elite. It could be World Elite.
Okay. When was the last time a Chinese team beat SK Telecom?
Last MSI. EDG beat them.
True. But not
in Tallahassee. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Warm weather environment? Maybe? Anyways, I'm just joking. Like, it's not... There are not enough planets in the next 8 solar systems to all simultaneously align themselves. That is way more likely than TSM winning this tournament. 8 different solar systems, all their planets aligning in a straight line across the cosmos, and, like, it just spells like send nudes or something. Like, yeah. I'm just saying, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. It's hard for me to take the, oh, Walter, you should really care about MSI point, when I just realized I completely forgot that EDG won in 2015. Just completely slipped my mind. Because... ultimately, that tournament didn't end up mattering compared to.
I'm just saying, man. Like, stuff happens. Flash Wolves won an international event this year.
I didn't realize how much I did not care about the history of this event until I completely forgot that fun fact. So
yep.
I'm gonna lick my wounds a little bit on that one, and let's talk about G2 Esports. Well, people have heard my thoughts on G2 Esports all year, because you are usually the host when we talk about Europe. I'm going to give you the floor. What do you want? What do you want to see from G2 here? Because I think that this is a team, obviously, with a lot to prove on the international stage. A lot of question marks about how they're going to perform, how they're going to handle the pressure. Have they learned from their mistakes last year? So what are you looking for?
So if y'all didn't watch our preview of the European finals, where I talked with Heck about sort of G2's marketing problem, personality problem, fan base problem, whatever you want to call it. We equated him to Randall Keith Orton, a WWE wrestler. Chase, you're a relatively new wrestling fan, so you're not going to understand any of this because everything Randy does probably seems fresh. He's the guy that when you see the memes of like the dude jump out of nowhere and like grab someone by the neck and pull them down, that's called an RKO. Randall Keith Orton. Ha ha ha. Branding. The thing about Randy Orton is that he is boring as all hell because he does the same 8 moves and it all sets up into this RKO out of nowhere. Wrestling can be kind of boring sometimes. It can be kind of weird. I get it. I'm full into it right now. It's just boring. Watching G2 is boring. Not in a way with Vitality where it's like this long, just drawn out affair and it's just like you guys could have ended it 30 minutes ago. But it's just gotten so predictable. It's just watching it. It's just this utterly predictable thing of I know exactly what's going to happen. It's like watching Tom Brady lead an offensive drive in the Super Bowl when his team is down 35 points. You just know what's going to happen. That's right. I'm going to dig that knife in a little freaking deeper.
I just want to point out that I knew what was going to happen as it was happening, and I was at a table with people that just kept telling me, you're being ridiculous right now. It's not going to happen. This game is over. It was the worst.
It's 5-yard pass, 8-yard pass, 5-yard pass. Like, no, you don't get to complain anymore. It's done. It's May. You're done complaining. I don't care. My time.
Man, you're going to be mad when 3 years from now I'm still complaining about this.
I know I am. But that being said, it's just predictable. That's all it is. It's predictable. It's boring. Weldon freaking Green has broken League of Legends. He's solved it. He's figured it out. The first 15 minutes of the game doesn't matter. We're just going to grind the team fighting and the decision making. And you know what? I'm going to hurt myself for saying this, but Weldon Green is right. It hurts. It hurts for me to say that, but why is Korea so good at the game? It's not because they're mechanically better. It's because they make the right decisions. They know the correct moves to make at the correct times because they've ground this game into a formula and they understand it. They know exactly where to be on the map. They know exactly how to position on the map. They know which objectives are worth how much and when to contest and when not to contest, and they figured it out. It's not magic. It's just repetition. It's constant. And decision making is that. Making the same decision, figuring out what the correct decision is, and you're going to make a bad decision, and you're going to learn from it, and then you're going to make another bad decision that led off of that good decision, and then you're going to learn from it, and it's this constant state, and you only get it by reps. It's like mastering your swing in baseball, or mastering your free throw, or your shooting motion. It's repetition, and Weldon Green finally figured out, I don't care about the first 15 minutes, I care about when the game actually matters. Because if we go back to the course of history, the only time games are really solved in 25 to 30 minutes is when something either really fluky happens or one team is minus 10,000 odds better than the other team. That's the only time it happens. The rest of the game is solved in this 30 to 55 minutes depending on kind of which way the meta goes. So it hurts. It sucks. But Weldon Green, I think, has finally figured out what all the Korean teams have mattered, is that the game comes down to decision-making, and the only way you get better at decision-making is putting yourself into as many of those decisions as you can during practice. So he has a couple rings. And there are still things about him that personally just irritate the hell out of me. He should not have been the first person shaking people's hands in line after G2 won that. He should not have been leading the players there. He should not have been the first person to touch that goddamn trophy, because no matter how much work he puts in on behind the scenes, he takes his hands off and he lets the players play. That is the players' trophy first, and then the coach's trophy. And that irritates the shit out of me, that he is that egocentric. But I have to concede, I think he's figured it out, and I think G2 have figured it out. Granted, I think that decision-making does not mean they're going to win this thing. Like, the rest of the world knows this too. Like, Korea knows this, Taiwan knows this, China knows it. You're the first Western team, I think, to finally unlock its potential, but everybody else is like 3 years ahead of you, so that's why I would have them here at 4. I think they're better than TSM and Marines, but I don't think they're quite as good as the other 3 teams.
It's interesting when you look at the perception of G2 versus the reality of G2. Like, for example, when we think of like fun, impactful, exciting games of League of Legends in Europe, first team we always jump to is Unicorns of Love. Oh yeah, there's skirmishes all the time and the crazy kill counts and whatever else. G2 led all European teams in the playoffs with the most kills per game. 15.15 kills per game by G2 during the playoffs. Now, you can tell me all day long whether that, this doesn't really matter because of the way they got those kills, and fine. But, Perks is a guy that we should get excited about. We should be excited when he gets on those assassins and starts roaming around the map. We should be excited when Trick is counter jungling like crazy and really reducing the enemy's plays. We should be super excited when Sven does his crazy stuff that he does in every team fight to kite around everybody and pull off these kills. And we're not. And the reason that we're not is because they've done this for a long time. You're going to give Weldon credit. I'm going to say, I'm not sure what Weldon has added to G2. I think that I agree with everything you said in terms of, what those priorities should be, and I understand his point on that. But on the other hand, does this look like a significantly different team from the G2 that we saw in 2016? What is the change in their playstyle that we can say on the Rift, we can prove tangibly they are better at this than they were when they were at Worlds?
I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot you can tangibly say. I just think they're a slower, more methodical team.
That's you say it's a slower, more methodical team, but their average game time is the same that it was last year. It's 2017 spring playoffs. We saw they had a 38.1 average game time minutes per game. 2016 summer playoffs, it was 35.6, but they were the same. It was the same by the average compared to the rest of the teams as.
Okay. slower does not mean they are physically playing this game slower. It does not mean that their games are longer. What I mean by slower is it is more methodical. It is a more measured approach. It isn't the super, super early game aggression where they're constantly going out and getting kills and building a lead like that. It is very calculated. It is very, we're going to sit back on our laurels. We're going to try and make as few mistakes as we can when it is about individual decision making. When it's about Mithy and Sven making individual decisions, when it's about Trick making an individual decision, when it's about Perks making an individual decision, when it's about Expect making an individual decision when it comes to how am I manipulating my lane, how am I trying to get a kill, how am I trying to do this. Minimize risk across those moments, and then maximize potential when you are a unit, when you are 4, 5 people strong. Maximizing it by saying, okay, as a group, this is what we are capable of. This is what our role is. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. It seems like everything was calculated in advance of, all right, Mithy, you're playing this champion. You're going to use this ability to engage on them this way, and Expect is going to follow up like this. It was calculated. It was a playbook. That's how it felt watching them. Not that, oh, they're playing longer games. They're just waiting until the 40-minute mark and taking one team fight. Just
all of those things I felt like we were saying this time last year. At least not this time last year, because spring they still hadn't gotten Sven and Mithy yet. But I think heading into Worlds, I think we were saying all of these things. I can point to articles I was writing at the time about how methodical the G2 were compared to other Western teams.
But they were taking risks in the early game. That was the thing, is they were taking risks in the early game, but they were good enough that teams weren't exploiting them. That's the difference. That's what happened at Worlds, was they were taking all these risks in the early game, and other teams were exploiting them. Albus Nox was exploiting mistakes in the early game with pathing, with consistency in Trick's pathing, with consistency in how, Perks played the lane. That's the part that G2 said, this was our issue. We're good at the team fighting. We're good at the mid to late game decision making. Where did we lose games? And they lost them in the early game when they were trying to be over aggressive, when they were trying to build this lead from 1 to 15 minutes. And then they decided, well, if we're so good at this kind of late game team fighting, as long as we're within, X amount of gold, it shouldn't matter all that much. As long as we're within a half an item, our mechanical play, our team strategy, the way we play team fights and the way we move around the map should be enough to make up that, 3 to 4 to 5,000 gold lead. That's what I think changed. I think they took that methodical decision making in the late game and applied it to the early game and said, listen, we don't need to take all these kind of risks. Trick does not have to be constantly invading when he doesn't know where the enemy laner is, or we don't have to have all of these blind roams by Perks into the top lane or into the bot lane. Like, we can just sit back in our lane, kind of let the enemy team dictate the pace to a certain extent, and then snap the trap shut once we know now we're at our moment. Now we know we're at our strongest. That's what I'm saying. I don't disagree with your point, but I just think they took a lot of the risks out of the early game that they had over the summer and at Worlds.
That's fair. I understand where you're coming from on that. I think ultimately a lot of my problem comes down to the fact that I don't think that taking those risks was the problem. I think their execution of those risks and the risks that they chose to take. Like, you can play the early game out and make decisions that are going to further your early game power and get you into the mid to late game in a better position and still be intelligent about it. It doesn't have to be as reckless as they maybe were in some of those moments. And instead, I feel like they've just decided, well, instead of learning how to be better at this, let's just punt and get to, the 20 to 30 minute mark and then hope that we're not too far behind. I don't like that approach. I'm closer to Kelsey Moser than I am to Weldon on that, but it's a debate that we could have for a long time and have already had on this podcast for a long time. So we should move on. But I do want to get your guess. I know it's very funny how these things change over time. Where do you think the outright is for G2?
Plus 1,000.
Plus 2,000.
Okay.
They don't have them in TSM very different. And I don't think they should be. I don't think G2 has shown us that they deserve more credit than that.
Okay. I thought they were gonna have I thought they were gonna have World Elite a little closer. That's why I was going so close. But
well, I mean, we have to figure out what World Elite's line is.
Yep. So now I have to change my World Elite line.
Well, let's talk about World Elite. Where, this is a team that, maybe our fans haven't particularly followed all that closely.
We want to talk about not giving a crap about the early game. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Team WE, also known as World Elite. If you want a team that completely rest on their laurels for about the first 25 minutes of the game. Do you want to watch League of Legends? If you could start purely at minute 30 and watch from minute 30 to minute 50, if you want a team that puts the team in team fight, ladies and gentlemen, in the red and white, Team WE. All late game. All team fighting. Yeah, laning? Who cares? If they could start and just have an ARAM, they would do it. Like, this is a team that has mastered the art of team fighting, that has learned, that has taken that G2 Weldon approach to its extreme limits of how much of a lead can we give up and still win this game because we win 2 team fights, one at Baron and one to end the game. It is incredible to watch these guys play. And it's not like they're bad players. Across the board, they're a very strong team. Mystic and Ben, I think, are a very good duo combination in the bot lane. I think they understand each other very well. I think they play off of each other's strengths and they minimize each other's weaknesses. And the other big guy is 957 in the top lane. Now, if you remember the last time World Elite was in the international tournament, it was when they lost to TSM and IEM Katowice. Their current jungler, Kandi, was the top laner there, and it was this joke, oh, Kandi is like the new Darien. He like feeds to win, he plays Scion, and that's about it. He's now their jungler, and I think he still feeds to win, but just in different ways. But 957 is fun to watch because he plays Bruiser Fizz, he's a split pusher, like, he's a fun guy because he's not afraid to go after duels. And he's like, I'm fighting to kill this guy. Whereas Kandi was more like, oh, you want to fight me? I don't really want to fight you. Can I just play my tank and sit under tower and farm? No? Okay, I'm dead. All right, I guess I'll TP back to lane and get my farm. And 957's like the complete opposite, where he's like, nah, I want to dominate this matchup. I want to make you my bitch.
Well,
like, it's great.
The funny thing about that is, that's not necessarily who he was during the regular season. You know, Froskuren brought this up during the broadcast when he had that very nice play under his inhibitor tower as the Shen in the playoffs, and ended up getting that reverse on the 2-for-1 dive that RNG thought they were going to pull off, where he just pulled a nope and made it pretty ugly. But his most played champions during the regular season were Nautilus and Maokai.
Yep.
I mean, he was not that guy, and they've let him be that guy now, and you know, he was struggling towards the end of the season. He really, it took him a while to make those adaptations, but it seems like he's figured it out. And I think they also benefit from Jie, who's not been the best player historically in China, but they, you know, World Elite have invested in him. They've given him time and resources and told him, you know, we believe in you. We believe you can figure this stuff out. And he's now become a very interesting mid laner. You know, he likes to play that karma mid, you know, really enable the rest of the members of his team while still having, you know, that CC potential in a big team fight. I like what he's been doing. I do think some of their early game issues come down to the fact that they have a Korean bot lane and Chinese everything else. So the top half and the bottom half of the map can't really communicate all that well together. So in the early game, where there's not as much warding and there aren't as many clear objectives to fight around, this can create kind of a mess. That's kind of how I would describe World Elite's early game. It's a mess. But they just seem to have a really great understanding of, well, now that the mess is over, what do we do? Oh, well, this is what we do because this is where we can win, and this is our only out at this point, so let's execute it perfectly. And they execute it mechanically perfectly. And they did it against an incredibly great mechanical team in Royal Never Give Up. And so if they can do it there, you'd have to imagine they could do it against just about anybody. That will be put to the test in this tournament, of course. Do you think there's a chance? Could this be China's revival?
They need to not face SKT. That's what the sum of this is going to come down to, is the teams not named Flash Wolves need to not face SKT. They need somehow for SKT and Flash Wolves to end up against each other, which means Flash Wolves has to be the 4 seed somehow. Or SKT and Flash Wolves are the 3 seed and one of these teams are the 1 seed. Not going to happen. But, like, yeah, there's a chance. I think they're a really, really strong team-fighting team. And if you could survive long enough to get to a point where even if you're down by 10k gold at 55 minutes, if you win a team fight, you can win a game. And that's kind of World Elite's MO, is win a team fight, take an objective. Win a team fight, win the game. So there is a chance. I think there's more of a chance with them than the other 3 teams we've talked about right now. Hence why they have better odds to win. But that being said, like it's this isn't basketball where an injury can change the entire landscape of the playoffs. Tony Parker isn't, tearing his Achilles tendon or whatever his injury is and not playing the rest of the playoffs, and now the Houston Rockets have a more of an advantage in that series. Like, that's not going to happen. Faker isn't going to, like, sprain his ankle and not be able to play tomorrow. Like, it's not going to happen. So is there a chance? Sure. There's more of a chance than every planet aligning in 8 galaxies to, spell like send nudes or something ridiculous. Like, no, it only needs to be 7 galaxies, and you could leave off the exclamation point. Like, it's more likely, but how possible is it? I don't see it. I don't see an easy pathway there. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, here's the thing. SKT also knows how to team fight, and they also know how to play the early game.
Yeah, that's... So and they're also really talented mechanically, too. Right.
And also they play against other Koreans all the time instead of Chinese teams that have interesting decisions from time to time. I'm going to say interesting decisions. I think that's the nicest way I can phrase it. Yes. The combined kills per minute makes China very fun. Where do you think the outright line is, Walter?
Well, if G2 is plus 2,000, I was going to say, if G2 is like plus 1,000, plus 1,500, I was going to say World Elite plus 750. I'm going to say World Elite plus 1,250.
World Elite plus 900.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I think that's fair.
That's like right in the middle. I dig it.
Yeah. I think that's totally it's fair. A fair line.
Totally fair.
Let's move on to Flash Wolves. Number 2, according to Unicorn, and their outright lines.
Yep.
They are the winners of IEM Katowice, the most recent international event. They came out on top.
Ooh.
They absolutely crushed Supermassive in 3 games that probably made the entire country of Turkey very sad. It wasn't even particularly close.
I was about to get political for a second, but I don't want to make that statement, so I'm gonna just...
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons that Turkey might be sad. But that didn't help. I'm going to put it that way. And, I mean, it was just just demolishing.
That was brutal to watch.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to watch, I'll be honest.
I'll put it this way. You could have put the VODs on a different tube site, and I wouldn't have felt out of place. Like, that's where we were. So...
Five Taiwanese teens spank 5 Turkish teens.
That's basically where it went down. So, Walter, what do we see here with Flash Wolves? Are they a team that we should be believing in more than we did at Worlds, where they didn't quite put it all together?
No, I mean, like, here's the thing: they have the skill, they have the talent. MMD. We watched the LMS finals. Yes, I watched the LMS finals. Like, I did. I watched the LMS finals with Chase. He was there. He watched with me, and the entire time we're like, why is MMD playing? Like, he's really bad at this. He's a really bad Rumble player. Like, what is MMD? Like, that was 90% of it.
Yeah.
I think Betty, the new AD carry, was pretty cool. I think that he is a nice, third option on this team that has Karsa and has Maple as their primary options. But at the same time, like, the one international tournament, they've had some really good success. IEM Katowice had the 2 worst Korean teams and Europe. Like, we haven't seen them play against Faker in a long time. We haven't seen, like, I think Maple can still stand up. I think Karsa can still stand up. But, like, the thought of Huni against MMD is just kind of orgasmic.
Yes.
Like, man, Huni's been working on top lane Lucian. Like, with how bad MMD is playing, do you think there's a chance Kokoma's just like, all right, you've been good all year. We're up 2-0. Go ahead, Huni. You could play top lane Lucian. And Huni's just like, hold on. Like, yes, I get to play Lucian. This is amazing. I'm a Pokemon now. Like,
yes.
I mean, I have to see it. I have to see them. And I think part of it will be seeing them play in the group in the round robin against SKT will give me some sort of idea of, like, okay, when these 2 guys play in their best of 5 series to decide who wins MSI, how close is it going to be? It'll tell me if it's going to be a 3-1, a 3-0, a 3-2, if Flash Wolves are going to win. I mean, it's totally possible. We had these sort of same thoughts about EDG versus SKT last year in Tallahassee. And EDG ended up winning, mainly because I think SKT was slightly burned out.
You keep saying last year. It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. I'm sorry, 2 years ago in Tallahassee. I don't even remember what happened last year. See, MSI
SKT won.
SKT won.
Okay. Yeah.
Royal never give up. Got it. So 2 years ago. 2 years ago in Tallahassee. Like, that was kind of the, like, they were burned out. They were kind of getting used to, new roles, new meta, that kind of stuff. Like, Flash Wolves have a chance. They have the best chance out of everyone, but I need to see it first. I need to see them be competitive against SKT, a really close, 2 games against them in the round robin, for me to say, yeah, in a best-of-5 series, I think they really stand a chance against the best player in the world, the best coach in the world, and, these other 4 players that you could argue might be the best at their positions in the world, too. Like, Faker's the greatest player of all time. Kokoma's the greatest coach of all time. They have the greatest support staff of all time. They're the greatest organization of all time. Like, it's hard to beat that. I just have to see competitiveness first before I say, yeah, they can definitely beat them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Quick correction, because I know there are some CLG fans yelling at the screen right now. CLG was in the finals against SKT.
Oh, yeah, last year. That's right.
That was the tournament in
That's
which
why I forgot about it.
Never Give Up won the group stage,
yeah,
which gave them the right to place the 4 seed, which was SK Telecom.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
They had that weird 4-game stretch where they just got beaten by everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
It made no sense, and we still have no explanation for it. But it meant that RNG got wiped out. And
it was just so SKT could beat them in the quarterfinals. That was why.
It was a funny year. I remember it as RNG's tournament because 4 of their 5 players got the all-tournament team.
Oh, right.
But
except Faker. Faker was
no. Faker was not. No.
No.
It was 6A, AD carry.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
But all of this is to say that Flash Wolves, for everything that they've done, and they have accomplished quite a bit, that's the bar now, right? I mean, we can say all that we want, like, well, they haven't even gotten out of the group stage. So really, that would be, something we should look at. If they got to the finals, that's an accomplishment, right? But like, it feels like it shouldn't be, because this is a team that we know, talent-wise, is more than ready to take these things on. We know that they're capable of this. They need to be thinking about how high can we go, not can we avoid screwing up this time. And that's the problem that Taiwan has had as a region for a while now, is that so much of it has turned from, we are, this great team that people should respect, to, are we going to put it together when it matters most? Because everyone knows that we should, and we haven't yet. And that's, I guess, it's a very interesting problem that they need to solve. Is there anything you think they could do to try to make that easier on themselves? Is there anything that, if you're the Flash Wolves coach, you're Steak, who's, people might remember from back in the day, that was another Flash Wolves top laner, with the crazy afro hair. You're Steak. What's your plan? How do you get them to feel comfortable?
They've been here before. Every single one of them but Betty has already been here before. They've been in the situation where they're playing against SKT, where SKT is the best team in the world.
Yeah. They're 3-1 in those matches, for the record.
They're 3-1. Yeah, I mean, that's what you hang on. It's like, guys, we beat these guys before. We beat them before. We beat them when they had a more consistent roster. Like, they made roster changes. There's 2 different changes in the top lane. Just play our game. How are we going to beat them? And I think it's take it to Faker. I hate saying that, but I think you have to take it to Faker. I think you have to just throw Carson Maple at him, pull Peanut into that lane, tell MMD, play safe, don't overextend, know that Huni is a better player, and yeah, just take it at Faker, get him off his game. We know that some of the shot calling has got to come through him, that some of the decision making has got to come through him. Have him stop being the puppet master and really focus on his own lane, because Maple is one of the few guys on the planet that mechanically and the processing skill can go toe-to-toe with Faker. And adding Karsu, who is a fantastic jungler, who has really weird angles that he knows how to gank from and all that jazz, I think helps. And Peanut is still young compared to Karsu. He's still a young guy. He's only had a couple of experiences on the international stage, mainly being Worlds. go after it. Make the master and the apprentice beat you. It's a master and apprentice against like two wizened kind of Jedi veterans. Like, you're the good guys in that series. Everyone would love to see SKT lose. Everyone would love to see SKT lose. Just don't get lost in the moment. Focus on what makes you you, and do it to 110% of your ability. That's my plan if I'm Steak. I give him the any given Sunday speech. I give him the speech from Hoosiers. I give him the speech from Coach Carter. I give him literally every stereotypical sports movie monologue speech. And I say, you go get him, Falco. Go get him, boy.
I don't know how you go 3-1 against SK Telecom and then go 0-2 against IME within the same year. But that's Flash Wolves in a nutshell. I think the real thing for them is you can't get yourself so emotionally worked up over one opponent that you forget the rest. Yeah, you need to beat Faker and you need to beat SKT. And you have done it before.
You got to get to him first.
That's awesome. Yeah, you've got to get there, which means you have to take care of business against all these other teams that are going to be there. You got to beat World Elite. You got to prove that you can play out the early game and get Carson enough of a lead that you can just close this out. You've got to beat G2 and prove that you have a macro understanding of the game that can match theirs, no problem. You've got to beat TSM and prove that you know what you're doing as a League of Legends team. You need to beat Gigabyte Marines because, come on now, you got to beat Gigabyte Marines. So I want to see those games. If they go 0-2 against SKT in the group stage and win the other 8, I think that's a success. I think that you have to prove that you can get in, out, and consistently take those wins. But Walter, where do you think Unicorn?
Plus 750.
Plus 900. Same as World Elite. They're done. They didn't get out of the group stage last tournament. They went 2-4. They were the fourth place team in 2016's group stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will take some free value here. Thank you, Unicorn.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's fair. Look, man. Shout out to you or anyone listening if you want to bet against Faker to win this tournament. Like, all power to you.
At some point, he's gonna lose.
Yeah.
Some point
and you know what? I'm not going to have money on it when it happens because I'm not going to want to watch that series saying I need is for Faker to not pop off and kill me.
Chase, what we've learned is that I am the true degenerate gambler and you are not. So
I would bet on some random obscure prop bet that was entirely irrelevant just to say I had money on the series.
No balls. No cojones.
No, he's
no
on
cojones.
Cloud9. He's on Cloud9 actually. But
no, he's not. He's on FlyQuest. Sit down.
Oh God, yeah. Right.
That's right. Esport Wicked. Wicked.
It's been a long day. We're going to move on to SK Telecom. Let's do this, fam. This is the best
I have nothing to say.
Right?
I have nothing to say. There's literally nothing to say about it. Again, I already said it. Best player in League of Legends history. Best coach in League of Legends history. The other 4 players, you could all argue them being at the best at their position currently, with the exception of maybe Wolf. Wolf is the one weakness. And still, Wolf is pretty freaking good. He is easily a top 3 if you don't want to put him number 1 on that list. He's playing with a phenomenal AD carry. Him and Bang have a ton of synergy together. They know how each other works. Like, this is SKT's tournament to lose. Just like Worlds, just like last year's MSI, just like every time they step onto the Rift, you have got to prove that you are better than SKT. And very, 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 very few teams over the course of the last 3 years have proven that they deserve to be in even the same breadth as SKT in terms of possibly beating them. One of those teams doesn't exist anymore. They were disbanded. Their players have scattered across the globe. And by globe, I mean Korea. Because when it comes to League of Legends, the globe truly is Korea. This is where the buck stops. And honestly, if you ever want to win a tournament, you either have to pray SKT doesn't show up like the IEM events, or you got to beat them. And that is what the message is for every team at MSI is, how do we beat SKT? And frankly, if I had an easy answer, I would have told Reggie $350,000. There you go. Here's your answer of beating SKT. Because I am that much of a TSM fanboy. Even when he's on vacation, I still want my team to win.
Yeah. they're the best. They faced off against a team that had Smeb, Score, Pawn, Deft, and Mata on it, and made them look foolish. It was a 3-0. It was a 3-0 against this super team that finally had put it together against Samsung and looked like a team that could really hold up against anybody. And for the record, the MVP of that series wasn't even Faker. It was Peanut, the guy who had been the star juggler for the only team that really ever came close to knocking off the champs. I don't know what to do, man. How do they keep getting better? Like, it's 2017 and they keep getting better. It's not fair.
Money and prestige does wonders. Everyone wants to be a New England Patriot. Everyone wants to be a Golden State Warrior. Everyone wanted to be a Yankee until baseball decided to blow everything up and said, let everyone win a title. Let the Chicago Cubs win a title. Who cares? It's baseball. Nobody watches. The same thing with the NHL. Nobody watches. Nobody cares what team they're on. It's why everyone wants to play for Barcelona, Manchester United, Juventus, PSG, Bayern. Everyone wants to play for the winners. And when you have the best player in this dimension, when it comes to League of Legends, sign. When you can't beat them, join them. It's easy. Go win your ring. Go have some fun. Go out a champion, because you know what? Money doesn't always last, but championship rings do until you pawn them because you ran out of money.
And even then, it still says it on the Wikipedia that you were part of a championship team. So, yeah. I mean, look, I'm with you 100%. I don't begrudge Huni and Peanut for making that decision at all. I think that I would make that decision 10 times out of 10. And for the record, they've still got Blank on this roster, who might be the best substitute since EasyHoon was a substitute. Like, just an absurdly talented guy who has chosen to stick with the SKT franchise because, hey, I also like winning all the time. Give me like 1 or 2 games during Worlds that I can look pretty good in and get to be out on stage with everybody, and I'm perfectly happy because I'm still a champion, and that's all it's going to say when people look over the esports wikis is Blank champion. And that's what they are. That's what this team is. They're just 5 of the best players in the world at their individual positions that also have a coach that is so intelligent that Huni says he's not coaching League of Legends. He's making art and using players as the palette. Like, first of all, shout out to Huni for one of the best quotes I've heard in a long time.
Poetic.
But second of all, he's 100% right. This is the 5-dimensional checkers against the world, except it's art, which means it's transcended the game. It has become something where you just have to look at it and go, damn.
I've learned that Huni is actually making a cry for help. He's saying that he's making art, and we know the one champion in League of Legends that makes art is Jhin, and he's an assassin. So Huni, blink twice if you need us to save you. You can come back to the U.S. We want you here. Immortals will take you back in a heartbeat. We can reunite you with Rainover. Just blink twice at any point during MSI, and I will get SEAL Team 6.5 out there to save you. Just blink. All you gotta do is blink. I will rescue you from Kakoma's tyrannical reign.
And here I was thinking you were going to say that it was really just that he picked the wrong AD carry to play in the top lane, and that it was Jhin.
Can you imagine Jhin top lane? That sounds awful.
That sounds super bad. But, if anyone could do it, it'd be SKT. What do you think the outright line is, Walter?
Oh, man. SKT even odds.
Okay, you have it at even. -500.
Oh, you're shitty.
Why would no one's gonna win this except for Faker? Faker's got this. It's done. It's done. Why are we pretending? Why are we surprised by this line?
So you're saying I could gamble $100 on $100 on the rest of the field, on every single one of them, and if any one of them wins, I would make money. Yes. That sounds like oh my god, that's tempting. That's really tempting.
Yeah.
It's really tempting.
It's not gonna happen, for the record.
That's really tempting, though.
It's sure. It's really have fun. Tempting. I wouldn't touch that if my life depended on it. I really just can't. I can't imagine how Faker and SKT lose this the way that they're playing right now. But you know what? Have fun. Look, 2015, they lost at MSI. So it has happened. It's not unprecedented. I think this team is way better than the team that they had in 2015, but that's fine. Go for it. Enjoy it.
I'm like having the DT. I'm like having like the shakes right now of like trying to tell the gambler and be like, don't do it. It's fake. And the gambler going, but plus 900 odds that 1 or 2 like it might happen. Like, oh my god.
Man. It'd be great. I'm very, if you're gonna take the challenge and bet against Faker here, put your bet slips, either send it to us on Twitter or in the comment section down here, and we will give you a massive shout out if it comes through. You will be braver men than I, or women than I am. So let's go through individual games real quick, Walter, because day one, just curious to see where you think some of these lines go. Just rapid fire. SKT versus G2 starts the tournament. Where's the line?
SKT, well, if they're already minus 500 to win the whole thing, SKT like minus 2,000.
Minus 667.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because individual matchups aren't quite the same.
I guess.
Flash Wolves versus World Elite.
Flash Wolves minus 125.
Flash Wolves minus 118, very close.
There you go.
World Elite as underdogs minus 111. G2 was plus 400 for this series.
That's a toss-up.
TSM versus the Gigabyte Marines.
TSM minus 175.
TSM minus 435. Which means you could get the Marines at plus 290.
Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh god.
I gotta be honest, I snap bet that 0.25 seconds. No problem. No hesitation.
I would do that too.
I'm not nearly as nervous about betting against this SKT team as I would be against betting against Faker. Flash Wolves versus G2.
Flash Wolves minus 220.
Minus 175.
Respectable.
G2 plus 135 there. SKT versus the Marines.
Minus 10,000 SKT.
Surprisingly, only minus 5,000.
Oh, nice of Unicorn not to go to their max. I appreciate that.
Yeah, they're literally one off. It's 1.02 versus the 1.01. So, congratulations. The Marines are plus 1,000.
No, who cares?
I understand. TSM versus WE. Last game of day one.
World Elite minus 200.
Exactly that.
I know how to read the casinos because I'm an esports gambling expert, and I am your 2017 Spring Sprint Guess the Line champion. There's a reason that I decided not to actually do this as Guess the Lines because, like I said, TSM Fanboy is on vacation and he has the championship belt. So I couldn't even give it up to you if you won it.
I mean, you did get the 6 preceding lines all off to various degrees, but you know what?
Say your guesses,
cool.
So
we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you. That's, I mean, fair enough.
Well,
that was
it's not a competition.
It was a podcast, and that was, we're not having a competition, but hopefully you're excited for this competition. I think we've previewed as much as we can. We're going to come back next week to talk about the bracket stage. I believe we're on this, right? Yeah, we're gonna come back for the bracket stage. So
maybe.
Let's until then, you should definitely follow us on all the social medias. I am at RedShirtKing on Twitter. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
I am at Ceades_LOL, and I did not just accidentally show you guys that I was gambling on Unicorn and I was potentially picking anyone but SKT to win this match. You definitely didn't see that on the stream. Pay no attention to that. You want to take us out here, Chase? I got something important I need to do.
That's fair. One more thing real quick. I know you've been streaming on twitch.tv/Rough Drafts Podcast.
Yes, I have.
And people should probably be tuned in on there if they want to see you play video games.
Yes, I will in fact be streaming tonight. This is May 9th, Tuesday night. Haven't decided what I'm going to stream yet, but I will be streaming at 11 p.m. Eastern 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that's like 8 o'clock Pacific Time. And if you're in Europe, use Google because I don't want to take the time to figure out what time that is for you. I'm expecting that it's probably pretty early in the morning like 6 or 7 a.m. depending where you are.
It would be 5 a.m. Central European time.
There you go, 5 a.m. Central European time. That's why I keep this guy around. He's my time zone person. So yeah, so stay tuned for that tonight, Tuesday night, because that's the day this goes out. And Chase, there's something else that's going to be coming up towards the end of the week, I think.
Yes, that's true.
A couple of things.
It's been a requested episode, something that we've said that we've wanted to do, and that we have decided is absolutely worth the time and effort I'm making Walter put in to edit it. So it's going to be a very interesting episode. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And until then, goodbye, Internet.
Hey there, Ceades here. Thanks for checking out the podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, consider supporting us at www.patreon.com/roughdraftspod. For just $1 a month, you can join your fellow listeners in our patron-only Discord channel and help keep the content coming, or join our VIP club where $1 a show or $8 a month gets you first priority on all patron content like our patron-only Q&As. And check us out on all of our social media, Twitter @RoughDraftsPod, Facebook.com/RoughDraftsPod, SoundCloud.com/esportsroughdrafts, as well as on iTunes and YouTube by just searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.